2024 was an absolutely incredible year for concerts. Just over the past 12 months, I've been able to see over 100 artists perform live. Today, I'm going to look into my favorite moments, my favorite shows, what it actually cost me to go to all these concerts, and a couple of tips that I learned along the way. Let's get to it. So how did I end up seeing this many concerts? I am a huge music head. I always have music playing almost 24/7, and I fell in love with live music after discovering some live catalogs of artists like Bon Iver, The Tallest Man on Earth, Opeth, and Pearl Jam. I attended my first couple of concerts back in 2019, 2020, and I was absolutely hooked, not only on the music, but also the experience itself. And so in 2024, I had set a goal for myself to see as many artists as possible throughout the year. Just for reference, I'm based just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So I have Madison that's very close to me, Milwaukee's about an hour and a half away, Chicago is about 2.5 hours, and I attended some in Iowa and some in St. Louis this year as well. And so I definitely accomplished that goal for myself this year, but the question is, who did I actually see? And right over here is going to be everybody that I saw this year. If you see anybody highlighted in blue, that means that I saw them twice this year. So feel free to pause the video if you're curious. And my music taste is pretty diverse, as you saw from that list. I go to some metal shows such as Opeth and Lorna Shore, some rap shows such as JPEG Mafia and Childish Gambino. I'm big into folk music and indie music, so Bon Iver, The National, Gregory Alan Isakov are big ones this year. And it's tough to pick out the shows that I enjoyed the most, but I've compiled a top 5 of my favorites from this year and also my favorite song that I saw at those shows. So starting off my top 5 in no particular order, we have Pearl Jam at Wrigley Field in Chicago. I only went to night 1, and that was on August 29th. This concert was pretty special to me. I got to go along with my dad. He's a huge Pearl Jam fan as well as a huge Cubs fan. So we were in his favorite stadium along with his favorite band. I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. I listened to a lot of their stuff last year and familiarized myself with the catalog and everything. And this show was just perfect. The weather was amazing. I was checking Ticketmaster maybe 3 or 4 times a day, no joke, trying to find some fan-to-fan exchange tickets that were reasonably priced, and I got one in the lower bowl in a really good spot for about $190, which I was super duper happy with. And my favorite song from that night was Just Breathe. Eddie Vedder came out after the first set, and his very first song for the encore was Just Breathe. It was perfect. And this was my 3rd time seeing them. I saw them in Minneapolis and Chicago last year, but the concert this year just felt a whole lot different. The energy was a lot better, and they were also touring with their new album, which was really cool to hear. So Pearl Jam definitely in the top 5. Another one of my favorite shows from this year was Gregory Alan Isakov. I saw him in Des Moines, which was a little bit of a drive. He was touring with his new album, Appaloosa Bones, which I think has the most streams for me. I was obsessed with the song Master and a Hound, and I didn't know if he was going to play it because his new album was mostly band focused and it had a lot of instruments and everything, so I didn't know if he was going to come out and do a solo song. And he came out and played it, and I was floored. I was just so excited to actually hear that song live, and that was one of my favorite concerts this year. It's definitely the best folk show I've ever seen. Next up in my top 5, Childish Gambino in Milwaukee on his New World Tour. I saw him at the Pfizer Forum. I know the New World Tour got cut short for some reason. I'm really happy I got to experience that before that tour got cut short. The show was absolutely amazing. The set list was super cool. He was touring with his bando Stone in the New World album, which is incredible. Also one of my favorite albums this year. He played some Because the Internet stuff, some camp stuff. He played Freaks and Geeks. He was just playing all of the classics. It was super cool to see. And we got pit tickets and we were very, very close. It was super cool to see him. I've been a fan for a really, really long time. So seeing him for the first time was definitely a highlight for this year. Next in my top 5 would be Opeth in Milwaukee. My very last video was me reacting to their newest album, The Last Will and Testament. That album got delayed a little bit. However, they went on a short North American tour to play some songs from it. And they stopped in Milwaukee at the Rave. This was my 2nd time seeing them at the Rave. And I got some pretty close tickets. I had a really, really good view, and the sound was just incredible. I love the way Opeth does their shows. They don't play a bunch off the new album or a bunch off of their old albums. They kind of split it up and play one song off of each. You get something from every era, which was really cool. My favorite song from that show was The Grand Conjuration or Ghosts of Perdition, and I love to see Opeth again. I can't wait till they come back around. And rounding up my top 5, I have JPEG Mafia in Chicago. I saw him at the Radius on the I Lay Down My Life For You tour. This show was absolutely jaw-dropping. I was super excited to see JPEG Mafia. Again, I've been a fan of his music for going on like 6 or 7 years now. I was in high school when I first found his music, and to see him for the first time was super duper cool. The crowd was really cool, such an energetic performer. My favorite song that I heard from him in Chicago was Ex-Military off of the new album. Also hearing Rainbow Six and Lean Beef Patty was super duper cool. And a little weird with JPEG Mafia, I actually ended up seeing him twice. He added a tour date in Madison, which is 15 minutes away from me. So I ended up seeing him twice. That show got canceled because he got stuck somewhere and got postponed, and I saw him later on in December. But it was really cool to see him twice on that tour, but the Chicago show was just absolutely surreal. And if there's one thing we know about concerts, it's that they can be very, very expensive. Between a nice ticket, transportation, merch, parking, all of the above, Ticketmaster fees, it can be pretty expensive to go to shows nowadays. So I kept track of all of my ticket prices, all of my transportation, merch, and parking for this year, and here's what I have to share. My ticket total for this year, how much I spent in total on tickets, including taxes and fees, for all of the shows that I went to was $1,956. Within that price, I did go to quite a few shows for free. For example, Summerfest in Milwaukee. You can generally get free tickets to the festival, so I didn't have to pay anything for those. I just had to pay my transportation and parking. I went to a couple shows with friends, or I got tickets gifted to me. So there are some that I obviously went to for free, but there are quite a few that I paid for as well. And for my transportation total this year, we came to $650. I have factored in here my gas, an oil change as well, most of which is driving to Chicago. For those shows that are just in my backyard in Madison, it's hardly any gas money to drive. Going to Milwaukee is a little bit of gas money, but it's quite a bit to go the full 3 hours to Chicago and the full 3 hours back. So that was most of my transportation costs. But we were able to keep that at about $650 this year for all of the shows. My total for merchandise this year was $90. I only bought 2 pieces of merch this year. I bought a t-shirt at the Gregory Alan Isakov show, and then I saw one of my favorite bands, French Police, in Milwaukee and bought a hoodie. Try to support smaller artists. For example, French Police are a smaller band out of Chicago. French Police need it to keep touring, keep making music, and that's where they really make their money, because venue usually doesn't take a cut from that. So try to support your local artists if you can for merch. Of course, it's cool to buy from the big name people, but it goes a lot longer of a way if you're able to support the smaller folks. Lastly, my parking total for this year was $84.50, and that was across all of my shows. Something that I learned is you don't really have to pay for parking if you don't want to. As long as you're cool with walking a little bit, you can park a little ways away from the venue and then just walk to the venue instead of paying prepaid parking or paying the venue's pricing. I think of the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee, like Childish Gambino. If you prepay your parking, it's about $45 to park in the ramp, or you can park a quarter mile down the road on the street for free. Honestly, I enjoy the walk back after concerts. It's nice not to walk out of the venue and then just get straight in your car and sit in traffic for a little while. It's kind of refreshing to walk a little bit to your car, and then you usually have an easier out, to be honest with you. So adding up my ticket total, transportation, merch, and parking total for this year, my total spent on concerts was $2,780.50. Just to review a couple of my tips for concerts. Number 1, try to avoid paying for parking if possible. Have somebody drop you off, park a little ways from the venue. Anything you can to avoid paying the venue pricing for parking can really decrease your cost per show. Number 2, be conscious when you're buying your merchandise. Make sure it's something that you truly want. Make sure it's something that's sustainable and that's gonna last. And again, if you can support the smaller artists that you like or the more local artists, that goes a very long way for them as opposed to buying it from a bigger artist. Number 3, stay present at shows. Keep your phone in your pocket. I promise you'll have a much better time. I usually like to take a video or 2 just to remember the show. It was really cool to put that little video clip together at the beginning when I had all my little short videos from all the concerts that I went to. So nice to have a couple little videos, but please don't be the person that stands there with their phone up the entire time, just ready to post it on Snapchat. Promise you, you'll have a better time living in the moment and engaging with the music. Number 4, wait for panic sellers. I went to a lot of shows here locally in Madison and in Milwaukee as well, where I waited until the day of the show and even a couple hours before the show until I bought my ticket. A lot of shows at my hometown venue, the Sylvie, I was able to go to for less than $20 by just simply waiting for somebody to not be able to go and have to sell their ticket on SeatGeek or StubHub or Ticketmaster, and they had to put it out there for cheap. So definitely keep your eye out. You can get some really good pricing on tickets and pay a quarter or a fraction of the price. Lastly, be conscious of your seat selection. So for example, I went to the Suicide Boys Grey Day 2024 tour. While I'm a huge Suicide Boys fan, the tickets as you went down further and further closer to the floor were very, very expensive. And I knew it was going to be a long show with about 6 people on the bill, so I decided to pick a cheaper ticket up in the bleeders and try and move myself down if possible. I think understanding which shows you want to put more of your money into is a really important thing. For example, I went to see Beat, which was some original members of the band King Crimson from the 70s. I'm not a huge fan by any means, so I didn't need the closest ticket. I bought the very back row, the very last seat in the entire theater, and it was $9. However, for shows like Opeth at the Rave, I really wanted to be up close because I was a huge fan, and I felt like spending the extra $50 or so between the back row and up towards the front was well worth it for me. Just being conscious of which ones you want to spend more money on and which ones you want to spend less money on, and how much better is more money gonna make your experience. And that's all I got for this video. I really enjoyed 2024 and getting to see all these artists. I'm sure 2025 will be just as much of a blast. I've already got some tickets to some shows that I'm really excited for next year. If you guys have any other concert tips that you'd like to share, if you have any people that are on your concert bucket list, let me know. And that's all I got for now. I'll catch you guys later. My most Oh my god. Concrete mixer.